Hello, my name is Sami and welcome to the show. So for those of you who don't know, I wrote a musical. When I say that, I unfortunately don't mean the full show just yet. What I wrote was a 25 to 30 minute performance to be performed under the UMMTA Sitzprobe program of 2022. It ended up being performed at the Kew Courthouse in Kew. It was performed over one weekend, which happened to be the final weekend that I was in Les Mis, so I missed out on the opening and the middle performance. I went to see the Sunday show, which was excellent because that was the closing show, lots of emotions in the air, had a great, grand old time, and lots of fun was had. Today I thought I would just take you through a bit of the musical itself, a bit of behind the scenes stuff, a bit of plot stuff, character stuff, and looking forward what is the future goal and the future plans for the musical. I'm going to start with a plot summary and I'm just going to be really quick here. So pretty much a girl arrives at school one day, her name is Sarah, and she is singing about her life outside of high school. She's singing about her love for her friends and her love for her younger sister, and she's just having a grand old time, you know, bopping around, being herself, loving life. At the end of the song, someone screams and it's discovered that there is a dead body on the school grounds and that Sarah is actually dead. And it's her dead body. Cue the maniacal laughter, I mean, God. I came up with this concept in high school, so pretty much it was going to be like a murder mystery, so she helps her friends discover how she dies. Since writing the musical, I've kind of altered that a little bit. She still helps her friends, but she's kind of along for the ride rather than like, hey, I need to figure out how I died.
Hi, inspiring place below. Hello, Sarah. I'm dead.
After she figures out she is dead, she has a quick meeting with Death, who gives her two options. Either come across with them to the other side, wherever that other side may be, or remain at her high school as a ghost and slowly wither away into ghosthood. Sarah, being so in love with her friends and her life, decides to stay, and then we see into Hazel's life. It has been 2 weeks since Sarah's death and Hazel is just as sad as ever. Her mum then takes her to a remembrance service at the school gymnasium. Sarah arrives to see all of her friends and family after 2 weeks and she's very happy to see them all. She's, you know, catching up with them all, except she's dead and she's a ghost, so she's just kind of watching everything. Meanwhile, Hazel and Sarah's parents have a bit of a reunion and there's that awkward divorce moment, which my sister said was very uncomfortable, which I'm going to take as a compliment because that means I'm doing it right.
Well, that's family for ya.
After that, everyone sings about how much they miss Sarah, and then we go back to the school and we see students coming back for the first day in 2 weeks since Sarah's body being discovered. Sarah's friends, Amber, Eric and Ziggy, all sit in a room and they have a bit of a conversation. Ziggy plays guitar. Eric sings this lovely little song over the top called Dragonfly.
Why do you have to be such a know-it-all?
Well, why do you always feel the need to be so rude?
There's a dragonfly outside.
What?
At the end of the song, Sarah bumps into the bench, knocks something over, and they kind of work out that it might be her trying to contact them. So they all jump up and they run to her locker, and that's where the 25 to 30 minute segment of this musical finishes. I've got so many plans for the rest of the musical in mind, but I'm going to keep them secret for the time being because suspense is the best. Right now, I'm going to quickly go through the characters and who played who. So we have 6 lead roles: Sarah, Amber, Eric, Ziggy, Hazel and Death. When we were first auditioning people, everyone put down that they wanted to play Death, and so I had to actually write a role for Death. Originally they were just going to be like a voiceover character, real quick, short, sharp, simple. This amazing person got the role and I just had to write a song for them because they have this amazing voice and I just really wanted to capture that. In the role of Sarah we had Crystal, in the role of Amber we had Hanny, in the role of Ziggy we had Robert, in the role of Eric we had Harrison, In the role of Hazel, we had Rose, and in the role of Death, we had Ella. We also had a pretty large ensemble, and luckily they all had their chance to stand out and shine with roles of their own. So the mum was played by Chaewon, the dad was played by Harvey, the reporter was played by Min, the teacher was played by Esther, and the principal was played by Michael. And let me say, these ensemble characters really shone, like they all had their own unique moments. I lost it when the reporter comes out with the hair gel. And there's this really clever moment as well. The principal at one point is giving the speech about Sarah being this great student, but then he looks over to Ziggy to catch the name of who exactly that student was.
The memory of Sarah.
And that was a really clever moment in rehearsals that I saw, and it was just really humbling to know that people were able to pull their own influences from the text and not just read it how I had it in my mind. They were able to add this nuance to it, which was really fantastic. The rehearsal process was really cool. We had rehearsals on Sundays, which meant that I had to pretty much go to 1 hour of Les Mis rehearsals and then drive an hour and a half down to the city to get there for a 2 o'clock rehearsal start. So yeah, 2 hour travel time just to get to maybe like a 3 to 4 hour rehearsal. It was 100% worth it every single time, because as soon as I stepped into that rehearsal space, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, the cast just welcomed me with open arms, same with the prod team, everyone was just absolutely fantastic. And the great thing was, everyone seemed as cool and as keen and as passionate as I was. And sometimes in creative fields, you work with people who kind of seem like they don't want to be there, or kind of seem like this is a bit of a chore for them. And I can work with those kinds of people, that's all fine, but it's definitely more rewarding and more uplifting to work with people who are like-minded and who also want to be there as much as you do. The production team were also fantastic. So we had Ethan as the director, we had Maddie as the assistant director, we had Matt as our musical director slash arranger for everything. I'll get to that in a second. And then we had Maddie, the other Maddie, as our choreographer slash movement director. My writing process. How do I write a musical? How do you write a musical? Honestly, I have no idea. I've got no secrets, no tools or tricks of the trade. I just wrote. And I was very fortunate to be in a position where anything I kind of wrote, I just kind of followed. Everything kind of just flowed really, really well, and I was able to kind of knock out songs really, really quickly, which sometimes doesn't happen. There was a couple of songs I got a little bit stuck on for a bit. So the Remembrance Service song, I was like, listen, I want to go from this 4/4 section to this 6/8/3/4, whatever, swung section at the end. How do I get around doing that? And I don't know how, but I managed, and here we are on the other side. I wrote a lot at work using out-of-tune pianos, so they would often be tuned a whole semitone down, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that meant by the time I got around to actually physically writing it on my computer or playing it on in-tune keyboards, I had to transpose everything up one, so that was a bit of a challenge, but by now I'm pretty decent at transposing stuff, so it wasn't that bad. Ziggy's parts were also super fun to play. Ziggy is a non-binary character that I just love so much. They've got so much fight to them, and you really end up feeling for them in a lot of ways. They're obviously inspired by David Bowie, and I am not a huge David Bowie fan, believe it or not. But I wanted to include this character because I think what David Bowie kind of stood for in the early moments of his career, that sort of like genderless alien sort of stuff, I really wanted to involve that in this character. I used a lot of David Bowie inspirations when writing Ziggy's parts. I think there are about 5 David Bowie references in total. I used inspirations from songs like Starman and Heroes, even more obscure ones like 5 Years for the funeral slash remembrance scene.
I'd give anything to tell her again.
There's a song in the musical called Dragonfly, which is a finger-picking guitar piece, and I pretty much ripped the intro for that off of Man Who Sold the World, but instead of being in like a minor kind of key, I just made it into a major key. So it kind of goes boo doo diddle doo 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 diddle doo doo. Whereas Man Who Sold the World is like doo 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 diddle doo doo.
There's a dragonfly outside. There's a dragonfly outside. There's a dragonfly outside.
Stuff like that is really clever because you can kind of rip it off, and if you know where it's coming from, it's, you know, obviously it's like, oh, that's a bit of a nod here. But if you don't know, it's like, oh, okay, that's really cool. The other thing was that Robert could actually play guitar, and I thought it would be really, really, really cool to incorporate a scene where Ziggy actually plays guitar because of that line in the David Bowie song, Ziggy played guitar. So I could imagine this character in the musical being like, you know what? I love David Bowie, I want to learn how to play guitar just like David Bowie. And hence, Ziggy played guitar. I wanted to include a couple of musical motifs throughout. So for those who don't know, a motif is like a repeating melodic or harmonic or rhythmic phrase. There's a couple throughout the piece. For example, Hazel's theme. When she's first introduced, it's kind of like a light, cheerful, happy, innocent melody that's kind of played in the background as Sarah sings. And then for Hazel's own song, 2 Weeks, it's more minor, it's in a sadder key, and it's obviously reflecting Hazel's feelings about her sister being dead. The other motif was Sarah singing a line in Death Is Not the End. She kind of has this line where she's like, I want to stay and help them and prevent their grief. And that line, the melody directly translates back to the opening, High School, where she's singing about her friends and singing about her love of her life.
They're my friends, they're sitting round the table, talking about the day. I can stay and prevent their grief.
And I really wanted to include that as a bit of a throwback. If you don't know what a motif is, or you're having trouble getting this concept, literally look at Les Mis, look at most modern musicals, because a lot of them do it, where they'll do like callbacks to earlier songs within other songs. Les Mis is the same 5 melodies repeated all the way through, and it's a 3¼ hour musical. So if they can get away with it, you know, we all can. Overall, I wrote pretty much most of it on out-of-tune pianos/keyboards. When I write on pianos, I'm very much like plonk, 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 plonk. And so it was really great for Matt to come in and pretty much arrange everything, and I'm just starstruck by how he can just do all that. He added in all the extra piano parts, and he also transposed them to keys that the singers were more comfortable singing them in, because that's another big thing. I wrote all these songs to fit my vocals. I'm really, really grateful for his presence in this whole process. Like, I couldn't have done it without him. I was kind of being a musical director for the first couple of rehearsals, and it just wasn't working as smoothly as he ended up doing it. So it was just really great to have him involved, and he just added this sparkle to it that I'm so grateful for, because now it just... There is this amazing part in Death Is Not the End where Death kind of steps in and says, hey, this is not what's happening, listen to me instead because you're on your own tangent right now. And the piano goes absolutely nuts, and I just fall in love with it every single time. It's just...
Daffodils or daisies or even tons of roses. Sarah, you need to understand you're dead.
When I heard it for the first time, I screamed. It was just like, yes, this is what I wanted it to be, without even knowing, and I'm so glad someone else has been able to step in and just pull that. There's so much talent in regional Victoria, in Melbourne, in Australia, in the world, and I'm so glad that talented people find each other in the world and are able to connect and create such beautiful pieces of art and music and drama and theatre. And I love art, man. It's just so cool. By the end of the rehearsal process, I had literally no time to write any more parts for the musical. I wanted to sit down and write all the guitar parts, the bass, the drums, but it got to about a week or 2 before Les Mis was meant to even start, and I just didn't have time. I was literally doing 4 theatre shows at once. Normally you're only meant to do 1 or 2. I don't know how I accidentally fell into doing 4. I just keep saying yes to things, and I'm very grateful I do, because I get some amazing experiences out of it, but my God, there was so much going on there for a second. So I'm really grateful for Matt being able to step in and kind of helped direct the band through those moments. I think the show would just be absolutely lost without him, and I'm really grateful for his contribution. The cast, the prod team, the crew, everyone. I mean, theatre takes so many people to put on, but I'm just so grateful that all those people stepped up and helped put on not only my show, but the other 3 shows that were being performed alongside School Spirit that night. So the other 3 shows that were being performed were Extra Extra, On the Rise, which has its own Instagram page now. Same with School Spirit. So On the Rise musical and School Spirit musical on Instagram. And Merry Christmas Babe. The other ones were really good. They were very, very musical theatre-y. And as someone who comes from kind of like a musical theatre background, but not overly, it was interesting to see how they interpreted everything. And it was really cool to see some of their jokes and stuff. I was really nervous that not a lot of my jokes would land because the script isn't very funny. But luckily, the cast was extremely funny. Harrison had some great, like, improv moments with Eric. Like, there were lines in there that weren't even in the script that he just threw in, and they were hilarious. Like, he brought such a nuance to that character.
You got a problem with that?
I wrote Eric as very, like, sad, kind of, and Eric was just kind of like, nah, screw that. I'm gonna be like kind of wildly out of focus most of the time and just dazed, and I loved that. It was very strange. It was great. It was great. Even like the reporter and the principal and like the parents, just, it all felt really fresh. And I've been staring at the script like non-stop for the last 4 to 5 months. And the performance went super smooth. Everything fell into place. There was a couple of little bumpy moments, not gonna lie, and the lead had lost her voice pretty much that day of the show. So I'm really grateful that they were all able to get through it and just put on an amazing production. Like, I'm really proud of this cast, half of whom have never really done theatre before. They smashed it out of the park, and I couldn't be more proud of all of them. I'm gonna miss the moments that I had with individuals. Me and Rose had this great conversation after rehearsal one time, and she pretty much told me her whole life story and I told her mine. And then I was almost late for my tram and my bus home. But it was great because I'd never trade that for the world. That little moment there was just so precious, and I love having those connections with people through this rehearsal process because you meet some amazing people in theatre. Some really, really wacky, insane, crazy, amazing, incredible people. Future plans. Like all great creative endeavours, I have unfortunately fallen head over heels for this show. I love the characters, I love the plot, I love the moments. There was one moment that happened and I was really tense for it, but the whole audience gasped. And that was the biggest reaction of the night. Like, the whole audience just sat there and went, you could feel like the tension in the air just like lift. It was such a magical moment. And I'd written that moment in there for that reaction, and to sit there and have that reaction and be a part of that reaction in public was just such a heartwarming experience. I was almost in tears the whole night. It was such a great moment to be a part of. I want to have everything written by the end of this year. So there's about 6 months left. I've got time. I wrote a section of the musical in one half. I could probably do the rest in the next half, right? My goal is to have it performed within the next 12 to 18 months. I've approached a local theatre company about it, and if they take it on, great. If they don't, that's okay too, because I think I'm motivated enough at this stage to get the ball rolling and put it on somewhere. My goal is to kind of do it maybe like a concert style, where people kind of read the script, sing the songs, and perform it like that, just so I can kind of put it out there, maybe get a cast recording to, you know, start sending it off to people to kind of get the ball rolling and push it elsewhere. So that's pretty much the whole journey. There's probably so much more that I can indulge upon and think about and contemplate, but for the time being, I think that's all I've got time for. Enjoy the videos and the backing tracks and the songs. I can't wait to talk more about this in the future. I might make another little video update to see how it's all going, but thank you so much for watching, staying tuned, and being a part of this whole process. I really couldn't have done it without any of you guys at all. Alright, that's me off. I love you all very much, and I shall see you all in the next video. Bye guys. When everyone